will always be there because the distance from C to C is 0, which is less than. Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No problem.
Okay, fine. Let's go ahead. Okay, then. I thought something you wanted to tell. Okay, fine. Now, if anybody wants to say something, you can interrupt me. I won't be able to see when you interrupt, but doesn't matter. You can interrupt so that I will stop. So you can discuss. I mean, it is very important. I like people to interrupt so that there will be discussion. It should be lively. It will be lively only if you participate in it. So therefore, don't worry. If anything you want to say, please, feel free to, say. Okay. So this is open set and containing C. So what is the assumption? Any open set containing C will intersect A. Therefore, this U, namely BCR, it's an open set and it also contains C. Therefore, it will intersect A, and that proves that. Therefore, C is a limit point. So that was the first exercise. So what it says is that limit points can be completely, determined by open neighborhoods. Open neighborhoods means what? Open sets containing the point. Not just open balls and not all, containing open. It's not that general. This is first restricted to open, very restricted collection, open ball. Then very general collection of anything bigger than open ball. That was too big, too difficult. So we confined to open set. So it's first generalized, then again brought it down to a smaller collection. And we say that this is probably the optimal one. This doesn't lose any of the nice ones and doesn't include any bad ones in some sense. Because general neighborhoods are pretty bad. So we don't want, it's too big and too bad. Many of them are bad, has no purpose it serves. Whereas the essential ones are these open sets. So therefore we have taken. Okay, so next exercise. Already 20 minutes, more than 20 minutes, but still let us see. How many of you have done this exercise? Some suggestion quickly. Let me display it if you have not. Let me display it again before going into anything. Yeah. So the second exercise, F is continuous at C. Now continuity also can be completely determined using open neighborhoods. The concept is exactly same. So F is continuous at C if and only if every open neighborhood, for every open neighborhood of FC, that means every open set containing FC, there is an open set containing C. That means there is an open neighborhood of C such that its image is contained in that. So for every V, open neighborhood V of FC, there is an open neighborhood U of C such that FU is contained in V, or equivalently U is contained in, that's just set theory. FU is contained in V is if and only if U is contained F inverse V is purely set theory and nothing else. Okay, that's by definition of F inverse. Okay. Yes. Can somebody give some suggestion to prove this?
Sir.
Yeah, who is speaking?
Ardra.
Okay, tell me.
First, I assume that for every open set V containing F of C, there is an open set U containing C such that F of U is contained in V. Now I have to prove that F is continuous at C.
Correct. Okay. So what do you do?
Okay. So I take...
remember, when you write, you don't write it, but when you say what exactly you are now supposed to prove. And I normally tell my students that you should always keep that in mind, but don't write. What is your purpose? You don't write, you just do it. You want to show F is continuous, just prove that it's continuous. But don't tell that don't write, because when you start writing that, what is to be done, then it becomes an interruption for the proof. So don't do that. So, but I want you to tell what is the meaning of what do you want to prove? F is continuous at C means what are you supposed to prove? Yeah. For others, you must have understood, but let everyone hear. While speaking,
sir.
you should. Yeah.
So I let epsilon greater than 0 and I took an open ball B f of C epsilon.
Okay. So what let me say, given any open ball around FC, there is an open ball around C whose image is contained in the first one. Is that what you are supposed to prove?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So now you do it. Don't write this, but keep that in mind. At least for others to anticipate, you just spell it out. Okay. So let us. So what do you start with?
So I start with an open ball B f of C epsilon.
Okay. Or you start with epsilon positive because others are all non-diagonal. Okay.
Okay, sir. We know that every open ball is an open set.
Right.
So by our hypothesis, we can say that there is an open
So
set U containing.
Let us say. So your open ball is B FC epsilon, right?
Yes, sir.
Now I have to go back to the statement. What is the assumption? Whenever U is an open set, V is an open set containing FC, there is an open set. That's your assumption. So now you have taken the epsilon, B FC epsilon. What is the next?
So there is an open set U containing C such that f of U is
Before that, how do you get it?
Every open ball is an open set.
Okay, so let us take V to be this open ball, right?
Yes, sir.
See, you have to write two things. V is equal to B FC epsilon is open, number one. Number two, it contains FC. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
So you need these two conditions. What are the conditions in the statement? You just look at that. Every open set V, so it is open, containing FC. So both you have to write or both you have to say before you can proceed. So for this V, it is open as well as it contains C. Therefore, the hypothesis we can apply. What is that? There is an open set U containing C such that if U contained in V, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, since U
ahead.
is now since U is open and U contains C,
right.
there exists a delta greater than 0 such that BC delta is contained in U.
Right. Let me just interrupt and tell others. Others should draw a diagram and see what she is speaking, because that is the way we learn. Keep that picture in mind, then you can write topology very easily. So others should also, that means you can draw a picture, diagram, and whatever she says you should draw, and then you can anticipate what she is going to say next. Yeah, tell me. Then
this implies f of BC delta is contained in f of U.
Yes, that's all. And f of U is already contained in V, right?
Yes.
And what is V? V is your epsilon ball.
Yes, sir.
Right? Yeah. So therefore, here is a U which is a delta ball is contained in FV. Its image is contained in epsilon ball. Very good. Okay. So now let me ask somebody else for converse. Oh no, I'm sorry. Yes. Can anybody give me proof of the converse? There is something went wrong. Oh my God. Okay, so unless, yes. Okay, tell me. What is the other part? Let me. What is the second part? Assume that f is continuous at C and show that if you take any open set containing C, Fc, there is an open set U containing C such that Fu is contained in V. Yes? Can somebody help? I wanted to wind up within half an hour, but I'm going beyond that. So please. Anybody? It should be simple. It's not. Akhilesh, do you want to make a suggestion?
Sorry, sir, I haven't done it. I thought that it was the first part is only done.
Okay. Anyone else?
Sir,
Yeah, Shifa, yes.
let's assume that f is continuous at C.
Okay.
Let V be an open set containing f of C.
Okay.
And since V is open, there exists an epsilon greater than 0 such that B f
Yes.
of C epsilon is contained in V.
Right. Others should draw a diagram and check what she says. Yeah. Go ahead.
And since V is continuous at C, there exists an delta greater than 0 such that
Yes.
distance between C, x is less than delta implies distance between f of
No,
C.
no. Don't get into that. Just use delta ball
Okay, sir.
because we started with the distance notion and came to delta. So that is better. Delta ball is better. Okay.
Okay, sir. Since f is continuous at C, there exists a delta greater than 0 such that BC delta
Its image.
f of x belongs to BC delta implies f of x belongs to B f of C epsilon.
I mean, you don't, I mean, just, I don't know why do you get into more complicated thing? F of the whole set. So we don't have to rewrite that. F of BC delta is contained in BFC epsilon. Don't have to get into pointwise argument, distant argument, etc. Because we have already gone through all these. So we can use them. Okay?
Okay, sir. So f of BC delta is contained in B of f of C epsilon, which is contained in B.
Yes.
So we can take BC delta as the set U. Then
Yes.
F of C contained in B.
That's right. Very good. So now I'm happy. So I will quickly go through it again because for others, those who have not seen. So, okay, this is, I started with the second part again, exactly the other way that we have seen. So F is continuous at C. And you have to show that, inverse image of every open set. I mean, given any open neighborhood of FC, there is an open neighborhood of C whose image is contained in it. So start with there is a diagrammatic thing. Okay, so this is, so start with an arbitrary open neighborhood of FC. That means V is open and FC is in that. So by the definition of openness of subsets, there is a epsilon ball, there is a ball around FC contained in V. So So let us take that, call it epsilon, doesn't matter, some epsilon. Then now, but what is required is you have an open set in X whose image is contained in that. So how, but we only know that F is continuous at C. So now it's very simple, because given this open ball, there is an open ball around C whose image is contained in that. That's the definition of continuity. So now look at that delta ball itself can be taken as your, there is an error in right up here. It is not V, it is U. So on the left side it is U, and its image is contained in that. It is FU is contained in V. Sorry for the wrong. Right up. So quickly let us write down. So let us let's start with an open set such that FC is in that. Then by the definition of openness, there is epsilon positive such that BFC epsilon, some open ball around FC is contained in that. Now by continuity, what will you get? There you will get a delta positive such that the image of the delta ball is contained in that. So there is a delta positive such that image of the delta ball is contained in this open ball, which is already contained in V. So let us take U to be this BC delta. So it is an open set and it contains C. And what about F of that? This is open and contains C. And what about FU? U is BC delta. BC delta is contained in BFC epsilon. Here you can see earlier. So F of this is U. FU is contained in this BFC epsilon, and that is already contained in V. And that's all. So we are done. Okay. This proves the conclusion. So let us look at the converse. For all open set V, open set V in Y with FC in V, that means open neighborhood of FC. There is an open set U, I should have written. There exists U open in X with X in U, C in U, that's fine. Open neighborhood of C such that FU is contained in V. So to show that F is continuous. So let us look at again. For continuity, what are we supposed to do? Given any open ball around FC, you must produce an open ball around C whose image is contained in this. So take an open ball around FC, but you know that that is an open set. What we know is that if you are given open set containing FC, then something can be done. But this is already an open set containing FC. So use the fact that there is an open set containing. So there is an open set containing C whose image is contained in that. But what we need is an open ball for continuity. But see, U is open and contains C. Therefore, there is an open ball around it which is fully contained in that. Where will be its image? Its image will be contained in this FU, that blue region on the right side, which is already contained in the open ball. Therefore, the image of the delta ball is contained in epsilon ball, and hence we are done. Quickly write up. You take this which is open and FC is there. Therefore, by the assumption, there exists an open set U in X containing C. C is in U such that FU is contained in that. Since U is open, something is missing. There exists delta positive such that BC delta is contained in U. There must be notation of there exists. It's missing. Sorry for that. And now look at F. Apply F. BC delta is contained in U. So therefore, F BC delta is contained in FU. And FU is from the previous step contained in V. And what is V? V is nothing but BFC epsilon. Therefore, F BC delta is contained in BFC epsilon. That's exactly what we wanted. Started with an epsilon ball, produce a delta ball whose image is fully contained in the epsilon ball, and therefore F is contained. So that's the. So I took 40 minutes. I thought within half an hour I will do. So it doesn't matter. Let us get into now what we have been doing yesterday. Let's take. So what is the achievement? Achievement is from the distance we came to just open balls, which is an improvement because for many different distances, open balls will take, determine all the limit concept. Then we said open balls are also too restricted because of strong metric connection. We took general neighborhood system, and then we said that general neighborhood system will exactly give the same kind of limit point concept. Then we realized that the neighborhood systems are also not too good, because it is good to visualize better, but it is very hard to work with because different points have different neighborhood systems, and the neighborhood system is too huge to handle with, essentially because it contains too many unwanted things. So we restricted it down to say that only some uniform choices of neighborhoods we take. We take subsets which are neighborhoods of all of its points, not arbitrary neighborhoods, and call them open sets. And now we say that if you use open sets, open neighborhoods, we again get the same limit concept. The limit concept is exactly the same as what we have defined in the beginning. So slowly we realized that we came to a new set of subsets that can be used to study limit concept without any change in the basic concept. The concept of metric limit is exactly what we started with, but the way we study is different. The advantage is that now there is no metric dependency or anything. So you ask the question, please don't tell me what is your metric. Whoever gives me wherever you want to study, you only take the open sets. That will exactly give the limit points that the metric space give. Okay, so this is a collection of all open sets, and these are the. So one more question is there. Somebody gives you collection of all open sets. We should also generally be a little careful. Was some checking whether this is really the collection of all open sets in a metric space. So what are the properties it should satisfy, at least bare minimum? Because these are only collection of subsets. So only set theoretic properties we can verify. In a collection of subsets, the natural things, that operations that you can verify are union, intersection, and so on, and complement. Of course, these are the three standard set theoretic notions that you ask. So we said that first and foremost, this collection will certainly contain X. Why this? I just stated, I did not go ahead. Why? Let us quickly check why X is there. To say X is in tau, that means X should be open. What does it mean? Given any point in X, there must be an open ball around it which is contained in X. But that is quite trivial. You can take any open ball because all the open balls around X are going to be contained in X, because we are taking all these as elements of X only. So there is nothing to prove. So X is always an element of tau. Second, we said union. Why union is there? Can anybody tell me why the union of open sets, any union, any collection of, see that notation you should understand. Often that is a confusing thing. See, when we want to write a collection, how do we write? If it is 1 or 2 or 3, then you can index with U1, U2, U3. But in the general setup, how do we write a collection? It's a very, there are different ways of writing. One of the ways of writing is index them by some set. That will distinguish different UKs. What K, if it is finite number U1, U2, etc., then the index will be 1, 2, 3, etc. But sometimes you may index this over rationals, because for every rational number I find something. Then this collection will be a collection of objects depending on rationals or the indexed on rationals, and so on. So this way of writing, with a few examples, if I have time, we will see. Otherwise, whenever you come across such, you just recall this and be happy. Okay, that's all I can say. So now, why this union is there? So a quick proof. So if you have to show that the union is in tau or union is open. That means if you take any element in the union, there must be an open ball around it which is contained in that. This is not very difficult, because can anybody give some suggestion?
Sir, X belongs to
Yes.
the union implies X belongs to some set in the union.
Yes, so, one of them. That means there is some. Let me write down. Yes, as you said. So there is some index m in k. K is general. So when you write also, you should learn this. Don't use k. Small k is used for general variable. So when you want to say specific, this m that I have written depends on x. For different x, you may get different UKs. So in fact, m depends on x. I didn't write. So sometimes you may have to write that also. There exists mx in k such that x belongs to u mx. But don't worry about it. I'm just telling. But these are to be anticipated when you do post-graduation. No, sometimes you may have to distinguish. Then you have to do it. There is no simpler way. That is necessary. But here that's not needed. So there is some k such that. Okay, then.
Since that is open, there exists a ball of X such that Bx epsilon is contained in UM.
Yes, as is open, there is some Rx positive. I wrote Rx. R positive also is okay there is no issue at this point. So I just wanted to say that this R depends on X. So Rx positive such that this open ball is contained in UM. But that's not enough. What are you supposed to prove?
There exists some open ball of X which is contained in this union.
Which is that open ball?
This Bx Rx will be enough for that.
So how do I complete?
UM is contained in union.
Right. That's what you should say. Yes. So this is actually this UM is contained in the union of all UKs. No, UM is one of them. But on the right side, you have all UKs. Therefore, this open ball is contained in the union. Therefore, the union is open. That's all. Okay. So next one is intersection of any two. Can anybody give a suggestion? Some new faces I would like, these are very simple things, Loud thinking, even if you make error, it doesn't matter. Nobody is going to eat you. Okay. That's the way you should. First be prepared to make errors. Then only you can learn. So don't worry about making errors. That's quite fine. But learn from each error that you make. That's the way. Yeah.
Sir.
Who is that? Sandra.
Yes, sir.
Tell me.
That X belongs to U intersection V, then X belongs to A and X belongs to U and V.
Okay.
Then there exists a ball Bx Rx belongs to U and V.
So don't say belongs to. Whenever you say
Contained in.
So there is a BXR contained in U because U and V are open. X belongs to that. Fine.
Then U and V.
Wait. Let me. So when you write, you should write this. There are some two numbers, or you can write separately. There exists R positive such that BXR is contained in U, and there exists S positive such that BXS is contained in V. Okay. Then. But what we want is to show that An open ball is contained in U intersection B. What will you do?
Sir, U.
You draw a picture and see.
BXR intersection BXS is an
Is
intersection.
contained in, yes. But what is BXR intersection BXS? What we want is an open ball. Will BXR intersection BXS will be an open ball?
Intersection of open balls.
Open is fine. Ball I am asking. To say something is an open ball, you should prescribe the radius, center and the radius. So BXR intersection BXS, will it be an open ball?
Minimum of R and S.
Right. So you choose the minimum of R and S, then
B of X minimum of R and S contained in U intersection B.
right. So if T is equal to minimum of R and S, then BXT is actually equal to BXR intersection BXS. It's equal actually. And that is contained in U, so it's open. So therefore, it's done. As I yesterday mentioned, there's one extra thing we say, empty set is also there. That's for language purpose. So that's the, this is what finally we reached in metric space theory. Now, starting with the metric notion, distance notion, we now say that you can do same limiting process by just taking the collection of open sets doing this. So now there is no metric mentioning here, there is no open ball mentioned, there is no other thing, just a collection of subsets. So this will help us, to do study limits. So let us get rid of all those things. You can give any collection satisfying these conditions. We can do study analysis limiting process using this collection. So such a collection therefore is called a topology. So this is how we define. So let us just quickly say, there is nothing much to say, we have already seen this. Take any set and take any collection of subsets, but should satisfy this, whatever that we have observed. So we are not asking for metric, we are not asking anything. Take any collection of subsets satisfying this condition, then we can do this collection. Such a collection is called a topology. So this satisfies all the the requirements, at least not all the requirements, I won't say. This satisfies the basic set theoretic requirements of the collection of open sets that you get in metric spaces. But then once you understand this, I don't want to restrict my study to metric spaces alone. I want to study anywhere which also include metric spaces. That is why these properties have to be taken, because if this is not true, then metric spaces limiting process may not be involved. So that I want to include. So it could be much general. So any collection satisfying this we take and then study limiting process. So in this process we also study all metric spaces, analysis on metric spaces. Okay, so that is the not much explanation is required now. So anybody has any doubt now? Wants to say something, ask something? If not, I will go ahead. So this is completely motivated from the metric space theory, and we came out of metric space theory, but there are, when you make it such a general thing, there are good things and bad things get into it, because it is too general that everything that you get as topology are good enough, meaningful to study something interesting. So that is part of the game mathematicians do. When you generalize, you have it. Then you put more and more condition to make it better and better, nicer to your convenience. So right now, to start with, we don't make any other assumption except the set theoretic properties of open sets in metric spaces, nothing else. By the way, complements are not in generally open. You can find some good example even in the interval, open interval you take, its complement is not open in R. So that is a simple example. So therefore you don't expect it. That's why we didn't take it, because that's not true. You can't prove it. So that these are the basic set theoretic operation. And the third one, we took two of them. But if you take intersection of infinitely many large collection, it may not be open again. Even in metric spaces, you can get simple examples in R itself. Open intervals, intersection of open intervals may sometimes turn out to be empty set, sometimes turn out to be something very weird kind of things you get. So therefore they may not be open. So we don't take that. I don't get into those examples. Please find out. So let me go ahead. Okay. So this is called some general terminology. The elements of now, everything is all metric space gone. This page onwards, we are now into a new era. Forget whatever that we have been doing. They are only motivation for you to get into this definition. So I want to say that whatever that we did so far, now you ignore completely. They are only motivation. Whenever you want to go back to do, understand something better, you can do. But this is independent of whatever that we have been talking so far. There is no metric, there is no open ball, nothing. Take any collection of subsets satisfying these conditions. It's called a topology. And the word used, open set, I mean, I don't get enough time to discuss this, which is a little weird. It's not clear why are they called open sets, but that's the terminology used. Maybe it must have come from open interval to start with, then open ball, and then open set, something like that. I mean, that can be the motivation. But anyway, that's the word. So let me go ahead. Yes. Now let us see quickly some examples. Natural example is, again, you take a metric space, take all open sets in a metric space. We have already seen it satisfies all the conditions. So whatever that we are going to study in the name of metric, in the name of topology, is all valid for metric topologies. I mean, if you, of course, if you impose more conditions, then you have to check whether that is different. But all metric spaces come under the, topology. All, I mean, analysis on metric spaces, study of limits on metric spaces. Now there are some weird things I will tell you. One of the things is all that you want is union should be there, arbitrary union and intersection of any two. So very liberally you can take all subsets. This is one of the simplest thing. Then there is nothing. Any union of any collection is also an element. In fact, in this case, even intersection of any collection comes. We don't need it, but maybe in some topologies that can be true. That is not an issue. But we don't demand it. So, but in this case, that also, because intersection of any collection of subsets is also a subset. We are taking all subsets, power set means. So it's a topology, trivially. There is an interesting thing for you. It's called, of course, it's called the discrete topology. Discrete, there is a reason for it. In fact, there is a metric for which this is the topology. I don't have the time to go through it. So the discrete metric is defined as distance between x and y is 0. That's the general definition. If x equal to y, the distance is 0, which has to be there in metric space. If x is not equal to y, the distance is 1. That means all the points are kept at a distance away from every other point, exactly distance 1. Between any two distinct points, the distance is 1. Very difficult to imagine, but that's how it has been, in 3 dimension, you can keep at most 4 points like that, a tetrahedron kind of a thing. Beyond that, you can't imagine. Okay, so such a space they have kept from each other by a distance 1. So that's why this discretely kept. That's why it's called a discrete metric. And the topology, this topology is called a discrete topology because it comes from the same. You can prove that. Anyway, every subset is open in this metric topology. Okay, so there is a dual to it. This is all the subsets are allowed. That's the maximum possible. There is a minimum possible one. Just take only. By the way, by the definition, if you look at the definition, you see the definition. Yeah. The first condition, second, and this. Let me make one statement. X and empty set, the whole space and empty set always have to be there. These are called this is called the existential. First one. Any topology, whether there the collection should have an element, yes, the whole space and empty has to be always there. One thing. But second and third statements are conditional. If you give me a collection of subset elements from tau, then the union is there. Similarly, if you give me 2 elements, then its intersection is there. Only for, these are conditional statements. So this doesn't ensure any element in tau. Only the first one ensures there are elements in tau. Second and third are, if you are taking, whenever you take elements from this tau, there's some properties they have to satisfy. So they don't ensure any element in the, so this generally in many, axiomatic setup, you must distinguish this existential axiom and conditional properties. So this second and third are conditional properties. The first one is existential property. So any topology will have certainly these 2 sets in it. Okay, so so what did I say? Yes, yeah. So therefore, the other extreme is this. This is the minimum requirement. You cannot avoid this. And then you can easily check if you just take this. This is topology. It's called indiscrete topology. Some interesting topologies I don't have the time to describe. So look at all these. You can draw on a line. You can see, take any real number, look at all the open right ray, A infinity. And this, of course, remember this is not a topology because the whole, your space is X is R. R itself may not be, is not there, and empty set is not there. So you just push them, then it will become a topology. I mean, that last part is not all that important, but they have to be there. But the main thing comes on the left side. Most of the time, this whole space and empty set doesn't play any role in topology. That is to ensure things work well. That is all. So they are universal. Doesn't really do much while studying limits or at any for any concept for that matter, except some logical problems should be avoided. I mean, can be avoided. But look at the open sets on this side, and you will see all right open rays is very, very nice. This topology I call right ray topology, and nice to see what are the open sets containing a particular 0, what are the open sets containing 0, what are the open sets containing 1. They all look alike. Okay, then what is the union? If you take a collection, what is the union? If you want to understand, you really have to know the structure of real numbers, and you also have to look at various cases to solve it. So I just leave these things to you. It's very nice exercise for you that will really make you drill over the set of real numbers. Okay, I'm leaving all that. So there is another very less interesting but At same time, I'm using kind of a topology called take any set, you take all subsets whose complements are finite. All subsets that miss only finite number of points. The complement X difference U is finite. Of course, maybe for some say this may not be, maybe something more, because if you, it may not be there because the complement of empty set X may not be finite. At that, yes, becomes a topology. And this topology is called cofinite topology. So remember, now having out of this metric, and you can easily check the one, the fourth one. It doesn't come from any metric in almost all cases. Okay, very rarely it becomes a metric. It comes from a metric. So at any stage, if you think we are only studying metric spaces, that's not true. In fact, even the third example, right ray topology, never comes from any metric. So that's a very concrete one. No metric will give this as the topology. This will not be the collection of all open sets in associated with any metric that you give in R. You can experiment with many metrics, you can experiment, but none of them will give you this as the collection of open subsets. I mean, at some stage you realize all this, because these are natural questions you ask when you are given a topology. Will it come out of a metric or not? And these kinds of questions then becomes more meaningful. You can see it here. And so therefore, be careful when you are studying topology. Never ever in your mind have the feeling that we are working with a metric. It is not. Unless you are clearly told, or you are able to prove that it is coming out of a metric. So therefore, one has, it's a warning. You should keep you out of this metric, dependency in your mind. Okay. So this is, here is another very interesting. You fix an element of A and look at all subsets that contain. So you can note down some of them. We don't. If it were in a class, I would have probably explained all those things for some time and spent some time with that. But I just have one word of general understanding. Whenever you are given a topological space, a topology is given, you must first try to understand what are the open sets containing a certain points. Because when you want to say C is a limit point of A in this, you must first know open sets containing that. So you must analyze that. Unless you know open sets containing C, you will not be able to decide whether C is a limit point of any set or not. Okay. So I think this is just to say that there are many, there is no end to define giving examples. So I stop there. Now we go back again. All that we wanted was to study limit point, the concept of limit point. So first we started with the metric, then came out to open ball, general neighborhood, finally open neighborhood, and now everything we said, we forget all those things. Now we get into something called a completely new thing, topology. So now you get back and ask question. How do you define limit point now? Because now everything, no distance notion, you cannot use that. Now you have to start afresh. You have to decide when do you say something is C is a limit point of A in a topological space. It's not a question of verifying. It is now a question of defining, because there is nobody knows what is the definition of there is no what is that metric here that we already know metric limit point, concept of limit point. There is no metric here. Now it is general. So now you have to decide what is your definition of limit point. And then, of course, you always keep in your mind that we want to study metric space also. Therefore, the definition should also include the old concept. But you have to define. So can anybody give me hint how to define metric spaces limit points in a topological space. I'll give you a setting. Let X be a topological space. So there is a topology tau. And A be a subset of X and C be an element. When do you want to say C is a limit point of A? See, this is how you learn. I mean, I can just blindly give a notation. But having seen quite a lot of things earlier, and I want to continue with the same kind of studies, then what should be the right definition of a limit point? It is not difficult. Don't wait for somebody else to give. Give yourself a definition, which would also certainly take care of what we have been studying. Yes. What is the right definition, correct, best definition for limit point in this context, in topological spaces?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
Every open set containing X in tau should intersect with the A.
Okay, that's good. Only my notation was maybe a little different, doesn't matter. I have taken A and C, so the definition should be every open set containing C. See, this is what we have been doing. That is what we did in metric spaces. Now we don't have metric or anything, we have a completely new setup. So you have a collection of subsets satisfying certain conditions, nothing else, and we call it topology. Now, therefore, it is our duty to first define limit point. So we say C is a limit point of A if for every U in tau, see, I have written it more rigorously. Of course, elements of tau are called open set, I said, but I didn't use that word. Instead, I wrote it using, the rigorous, what is the write-up? For every U in tau, that means every open set with C in U intersection A is empty. So this collection, whenever any element of tau that contains C, we call U as a neighborhood of C. Now, afresh we are giving, ignore whatever we did earlier. Maybe the same term we use. Open neighborhood we don't say. In fact, in the modern language, this is what the definition of neighborhood. Probably I have written, yes, any open set containing C is called a neighborhood of C. So what does this say? Every neighborhood of C will intersect A. So C is a limit point of A if and only if every neighborhood of C intersect A. Okay? So I have kept I'm keeping what is that question now. If you have written right ray topology, fine. Otherwise, I will just go back. And this third one, if you have not written, can you just write down example 3. Tau is equal to A infinity, A varies over U R, union R and infinity, R and empty set. The set. Okay. So this is a topology. And we want to look at, the question is this. Look at 0, draw a real line. I have not drawn any picture for this line. And determine what are all the open sets containing 0. What are all the limit points of singleton 0? What does that mean? The set here is just containing only one element, just 0. So if you want to say X is a limit point of A, then every open set containing X should intersect A. Should intersect A means what? A contains only 0. So it says should contain 0 because there is no other point in which it will intersect. So what are the real numbers whose, I mean, that every neighborhood of that will contain 0. So the neighborhood, for that you should first look at the open sets. Every open set, every neighborhood will be an open set. A infinity. So this contains all real numbers greater than A. A is not there. My question is, for which element, whenever you take a neighborhood of that, it will also contain 0. Draw a picture and see.
Non-positive real numbers.
Non. What about 0?
Minus infinity, 0.
Or non-positive you said. Okay, okay. Minus infinity, open 0.
Close to 0.
Close to 0. What will happen? Yes. If you take 0, what will happen? Let us look at neighborhoods of 0. That will always contain 0, right? So that will always, 0 will always be there. Minus 1. Will minus 1 be a limit set? Others should look at and see. She has already given. If you take any open set containing minus 1, how will it look like? It will look like A infinity, and that should contain minus 1. What does that mean? A must be less than minus 1. Therefore, if A is less than minus 1, A infinity will contain 0. So every neighborhood of minus 1 will intersect A, will contain 0. Therefore, minus 1 is a limit point. What about minus half? Take any open set containing minus half. It will look like A infinity. It can be R also, but that doesn't make much difference. So that is why I said R is not, not very important. Everything should come from the first part. A infinity contain minus half means A is less than minus half. If A is less than minus half, A infinity will always contain 0. So minus half is a limit point. Any number less than or equal to 0 is a limit point. See, this is why I asked this example is to caution you that from the metric space theory's motivation, we came out of it and defined topology in a general way. Then things could be quite counterintuitive because we have only one point, 0, and that will have uncountable limit points. Limit point concept is still the same that I said earlier. I don't want to get into the other. So therefore, I mean, this one small example will tell you things can be quite different from what you have been thinking in your mind as, as one point, how can that be close to other points kind of questions you ask, which is quite counterintuitive when it comes to the answer to these questions. So therefore, you have to be very careful. So you are only guided by the collection of open sets. So anytime you work with topology, first question you should try to understand is what are the open sets? What are the open sets containing a particular element? And this is the first thing that you should analyze. You must be very familiar with that if you want to continue with the topology. Okay. I have 10 more minutes. So, I mean, this is just leave it. So I have given some examples. I don't have the time, so I'm not going to get into it. These are standard examples are there. Only non-standard I wanted to. So this is just, I don't know what, something is repeated. I think this I don't. Oh no. Something. Oh. Continuity I'm not able to. Somewhere, just a minute. Somewhere something is metric space there. Somewhere. Okay. All right. I think I have. I have missed that slide here. Okay. I mean, I just make it to you that slide. So how do you decide, define continuity now? That is the next question. So if you take a function f from x to y, if f is a function from, a topological space x to a topological space y, and I want to talk about continuity at C. Somewhere it is there. I think there's some problem with my slide. Somewhere I have written, but something in between got to, I think. C be an element of X. So now I want your suggestion. What should be the right definition for continuous function? When do you want to say f is continuous at C? Meanwhile, let me check whether I can trace my. Okay, other. But I think somewhere I missed it. It's all metric space theory. Yeah, please. If anybody have a suggestion, please let me know. No, it's missing. Somewhere it's gone. No, these are all different. These are other basis and all is coming. Sorry for that. I wanted to discuss. Can anybody tell me? I don't have too much time to, yes, spend on it, but at least a definition. What would be the natural definition? How did we define continuous function in metric spaces? Given any open ball around FC, there is an open ball around C whose image is contained in the epsilon ball. I mean, given any epsilon ball, given any open ball, say BF at FC epsilon, there exists an open ball BC delta such that F of that is contained in BFC epsilon. Generally, we said, given any open neighborhood containing FC, there is an open neighborhood containing C whose image is contained in the neighborhood of FC. So from this, how do we define this? How do we, and what should be the right definition?
Sir,
Yeah, tell me.
F is said to be continuous at C if
Yes.
every open set V subset of Y containing F of C, there exists an open set U subset of X containing C such that F of U is contained in V.
Very good. I'm very happy with that. So let me write down that. Probably I will have to stop here. if F is continuous at C, if for every open set B containing FC, open set, there is an open set U containing C such that F U is contained in V, right? Well, I have to pull some notation. Fu is contained in V. So this is this exactly is the definition of contain or equivalent form of continuity, definition of continuity in the case of metric space theory. Therefore, nothing new, but the general one is this is about point wise. But generally, when we study for functions, that not only preserves the limit point concept at C, but it should also preserve limit point everywhere. So we normally study functions that are continuous everywhere. Okay, it's a small f is what I have to write. Okay, so we say f is continuous, which essentially mean continuous on the whole space. If it is continuous at C for all elements C in X. So this is how we define, or even a subset if you want, then for all points on that subset, etc., etc. And as a last question thing, I just write this: F is continuous. Sorry that I don't have time to go through it. Anyway, continuous if and only if the inverse image of every open set is open. F inverse, F inverse V. So take any open set V in Y and look at F inverse image of that. This is open in X for all open sets V in Y. That is, so inverse image of every open set is open is equivalent to saying that F is continuous at every point on X. I mean, that generally we just write F is continuous. Well, I don't have enough time to go through this. In fact, continuity itself is it requires a lot of time to understand. But since I have been talking about limit preserving maps, it's my duty to just make a mention of it. So I just mentioned. You can, study yourself that. So I think I stop here. If somebody wants to ask some doubts or make some comments, please. Sorry for that I didn't spend enough time on continuity. Somehow I also don't see, some things are somewhere it is missed in the slides. Maybe in some other slide I must have written. I don't know. Some amount of things I have written, but which is probably missing there. All right. Even if it is there, I don't think I would have had time to discuss that. Yes.
Sir,
Yes. Who is
can
that?
you say, I'm Mridula, sir.
Tell me, Mridula. Yeah, tell me.
Sir, can you say about the term empty intersection?
Can you, I couldn't get you, hear you.
Empty intersection, the term empty intersection. what
Empty
is it?
intersection. Okay. If a collection is
Yes, sir.
empty, I mean, you have a collection that doesn't have any element, right? That's what you are talking about, right? What is the meaning of intersection? So first you tell me what is the meaning of intersection. X belongs to a set, an intersection of a collection. If X belongs to every element in the collection, right? Suppose K alpha is a collection of sets. What is the intersection of K alpha? X is in intersection of K alpha if X belongs to K alpha for every alpha in K, in whatever, indexing alpha in I, X belongs to K alpha. This is what the meaning of intersection. So now you take X, you have to show whether X belongs to that. So what are you supposed to do? You give me any alpha term, alpha. Okay? I should show that X should belong to K alpha. So my claim is that X belongs to the intersection if X belongs to every K alpha. That means given any alpha, I must show that X should belong to the K alpha. But your collection is empty. Therefore, X belongs to every K alpha in the collection. Do you understand?
Sir, once again, please. I didn't get the last one.
You take an object. I want to show that it belongs to the intersection of K alpha, where alpha varies over indexing set I. Okay? What does it mean? For every alpha in I, X should belong to K alpha. Right?
Yes, sir.
Am I right? Yes. But if your I is empty, then I win the race, because I am saying that you give me one alpha, then I will show you that X belongs to K alpha. Since you don't have any alpha in your I am done. Therefore, X should belong to every K alpha. Therefore, X should belong to the intersection. That means the intersection must be the whole space. This is a logical foxing, nothing else. Did you understand?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anyway, this is, these kinds of extreme cases can be quite confusing for, general students. And in mathematics, we almost never get through it, come to that. So you don't have to worry that. But then still, people sometimes worry about these kind of logical difficulties. Yeah. So empty intersection can be considered is actually the whole, whatever universal set that you're working with. Anyway, leave apart that. Whatever that we discussed here, if there is anything people want to, make mention or any remark, we can. I thought I have extra time, but unfortunately, the last bit I would have done a little more. But I don't know, some mess up it didn't happen earlier. Sometimes like that, in the slides, I don't know whether I typed that wrong place or something. Anyway, yeah.
I think the audience have no questions, sir.
Okay, then.
Archana.
Oh, Arjuna wants to ask some question.
No, sir.
Yeah, tell.
I'm not asking questions.
Okay. Now I understand what are you going to do. Okay. Fine. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yes, sir. So, good evening, dear teachers of various institutes and my dear friends. Today it is the 4th day of our virtual national workshop on topology in honor of Dr. Ramachandran PT, organized by the alumni of the Department of Mathematics, University of Calicut. Yes, we were witnessing how beautifully and systematically the concepts of topology can be introduced to students. In the earlier sessions, we saw the concepts of limits and slowly entered into the notion of continuity, and later to the big area. Miss, some disturbance is coming from some account, I think. Yes, Miss, can you mute others? Yes.
Maybe.
Okay, thank you. So after the concepts of limit and continuity, later we moved to the topological concepts, but very beautifully, nicely, Dr. A.J. Jayantan sir, retired professor and head of Department of Mathematics, University of Goa. I would definitely say that he was really motivating the students, not only students, everyone to ask questions, ask any queries, whatever be the doubt, let it be asked, then it's more good. He was sending such a message to each of us, and really it was motivational. And I think his attitude in the later classes provided more energy to the students, and people started asking more questions in the later classes, and it was a real nice experience for each of us. So on behalf of the entire organizing team, alumni of the Department of Mathematics, everyone behind it, and on behalf of each and everyone who is present here, and personally, I'm telling a big thank you to Dr. A.J. Jayantan sir for being with us. So after these 4 days, sir's lecture is ending today, unfortunately, but we were all lucky to have such a good talk, and our nights 7 to 8:30 were enlightened with knowledge, good mathematics. So as each of you, I'm also very happy to be part of this workshop, and we are expecting more such kind of talks in the future. So once again, I'm thanking Dr. A.J. Jayantan sir for being with us. Thank you so much, sir, and thank you everyone. Thank you, Cinemis, for calling me to tell the vote of thanks. So good night to all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Oh, most welcome. Thank you very much. I'm always happy to be associated with Calicut University. One of the places, as I said earlier, I keep visiting, and I enjoy any visit. Though it is not all that close to my hometown, okay, but still, I must have made maximum number of visits to Calicut University than any other institute, other than, of course, my own working place. So certainly, I always enjoyed the hospitality and the enthusiasm that I see, for doing various kinds of activities for the students, and that's a good example for everyone. But that's how you motivate students to come up, and as I said in the beginning, you see all around, go around in India, you will see a lot of Calicut University alumni from the university and even from colleges.